I wanted to do a follow-up video, a part 2 to the last video, talking about how taxes make a currency real. And in that video, I talked about how Tether is partnering with Lugano, but the Bitcoin Mystery School private Telegram group being on fire as of late as it is on these topics. What got shared in there is the fact that that's not the only government that Tether is involved with. And the most important one, I wasn't even aware of this and it's relatively new, is actually United Arab Emirates, where Tether has now signed a deal with them to do a version of the AED, which is the United Arab Emirates dirham. That is their dirham or dirham. That is their currency. And what's interesting about this currency is that it is a currency that is pegged to the US dollar at about 3.6. They move it a little bit from time to time, but it's about 3.6 dirham to the US dollar. Why this is important as a peg is that for Tether to do a version, it's literally just adding a multiplier variable into their software. And you could do it in a wallet as well. It's very easy to compute it into dollar terms. So it's almost as though they're just doing a version of a dollar pegged stablecoin. What's interesting about this though is, one, it takes advantage of that reification, right? It's made real because clearly UAE accepts the dirham for taxes and fees. Two, Dubai has become the hub really as of late for tech and for crypto. They're really pushing on it. Three, okay, so those are two big things. They got a lot of access there. Three, Dubai and let's say intermediary banks out of Dubai have been taking more and more of the market share of facilitating trades between BRICS countries, the countries that have limited access to US dollars, because obviously UAE does not have limited access to US dollars. Being in the region that they are and playing the role that they are, they've got lots, so they put it in reserve, and without moving the US dollars to any of those locations that may be sanctioned or whatever, China, Russia, they are able to facilitate the trade. So this gives a lot of power there. It's going to be official. What also came up in the group is the fact that, and I wasn't aware of this, India and UAE have been signing deals saying, let's do the dirham, more trades in the dirham. Because these BRICS countries, what have they been looking for? The new currency, and everybody talks about de-dollarization. There's going to be de-dollarization. No. To do a peg, to do a currency peg, means you have to do it for real, means you have to have one-to-one reserves, or you have to have the reserves equivalent to what you have in circulation in terms of dollar amounts of the currency that is pegged to. Meaning, they're able to peg the dirham to the dollar, a 3.6 dirham to the dollar. They're able to do that because that for all of the dirham that they have in circulation, the US dollar value in the UAE central bank, they have control of US dollar reserves. Or it's sitting in the US's central bank, but the UAE has control of them. So they're acting as this middleman. This is a huge opportunity for them. This could potentially, it's not de-dollarization though. That's what's so interesting. Just like when the US dollar, people don't know the US dollar, by law, look at the Coinage Act, it's pegged to the Spanish silver dollar, which it says in the law was the global reserve currency of the time. It literally says that in the law that the US passed. So it's just taking the language of currency and you're moving it forward. Why? Now, how does this express itself? That's another thing that's come up. How does it express itself if there is not the same level of demand for the US dollar? Well, first off, there potentially is the same level of demand early on for the US dollar with this going on. But what you would start to see is, first, US reliance on cheap imports is going to get vastly reduced. We've been living on that. Why have we been living on that? Because the main export of the United States is the US dollar. We don't export goods, we export dollars because there's a demand for dollars. And remember, money is a good. It's the most liquid good, or it's the good that is the most in demand in any market, the good that you can exchange for every other good. Right now, that's the US dollar in the global market. But if there's something where it's just, oh, let me just change in the software times 3.6 and boom, we're good to go, and it's still copacetic with the dollar, and all of these countries will take it, especially countries like India, now most populous country, right? It beat China. So it's like, it is the biggest market, and it's an open market as opposed to China. So India really is the world's biggest market right now. And if they're participating in this, so that's the first thing that you see. The second thing that you see, and this is why taxes have historically made currency real. The second thing that you're going to see is and the US knows this, a reduction in demand for US dollars, which translates as a reduction in demand also for US treasuries, a reduction in demand for use of the US system overall. This established system that runs on US dollars, the entire banking system as we know it, reduces US military force protection ability. That's the real threat to the US. Why do I say this? And it's related to why taxes make currency real. When you print money, when you print currency, when the king would print currency from antiquity, who are the first people to get it? Who gets the fresh dollar bills, you could say, more than anybody else? It's easy. The army. That's why he printed them that's why he printed the currency in the first place, to pay the army. That's the most important use for it. What's the biggest section of the US budget? The hegemon's budget. The military budget. When we print money now, billions and billions of dollars, where does it go to? It goes to militaries, to NATO in Ukraine right now. Printing money to go to Israel, which are proxy armies. And the reason that you can do that is because in the places where the soldiers will buy their food, pay their housing, support their families, they accept whatever currency it is. So what the king does is he's in control of an area. He's going to send soldiers into that area. He's going to garrison the area. He forces the merchants to pay him taxes in that currency. That means that those merchants will always have a demand for that particular currency. That means that when his army, his soldiers show up to that merchant to buy using that currency, the merchant will accept it because the merchant needs to pay taxes in it. It's a very, very, very simple mechanism. And the Rothschild family in particular came into prominence in the world. A lot of people don't know this. Nathan Meyer Rothschild is the one who did it. What did he do? Wellington's army was fighting the Napoleonic Wars. The British army was fighting the Napoleonic Wars on the continent, and the merchants on the continent would not take the British coinage. They would not take the British currency. To them, it wasn't current. It wasn't real. It wasn't reified. So the British government hired the Rothschild family, who had been currency smugglers, because there was all kind of laws about what currency you could and couldn't bring into England. They had been smuggling currency in. People knew that they could get their hands on Spanish pesos and other currencies that would be accepted on the continent. The British government hired them to do that. They were able to do it. They were able to fund the wars on the continent. The British won, and the Rothschilds became the only Jewish family to ever become British nobility at the time. That's how important it is. That's how they came into power. That's how important these concepts are. And I want to share these concepts with you. And man, I would love to have you in the Bitcoin Mystery School Telegram group. The classes for this weekend. I wanted to do this, but the classes are already sold out. Okay, so I've added like 2 more slots. Maybe they're gone by the time you watch this video. But go check bitcoinmysteryschool.com. I added 2 more slots because I knew people would check out this video, get excited. You want to know about these concepts. This is it. I'm also going to put into the link of the description from March 2 years ago, when the Russians first invaded Ukraine. I did a video saying World War III is in full swing and it's a currency war, and I give you the whole background on this, including the framework that I've been using, and all the predictions have come true over the last 2 years. Okay? I'm going to put a link to that in the description as well. bitcoinmysteryschool.com. All right, I want to see you there. It's this weekend, 23rd, 24th, 25th. That's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, evenings, Eastern time. We're going to go into depth on this, and it's going to be super interesting with all of the stuff that's happening now. As I've said before, this might be my last one. doing this, things are super busy here. This week has just solidified that for me. So probably no more Bitcoin Mystery School for a long time. So get into the group, get into the class. I'll see you there.